Guess what, Jonathan?
What you got?
I have invited someone to be our guest on the podcast today.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how did you meet this?
So I met him at a conference in Savannah. And what's really interesting is this was kind of more of a techie, whatever vibe. But he came in to facilitate one of the breathing and mindfulness exercises. And then I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then we were talking, and you know me, I share.
Yes.
I'm a sharer.
Yep.
So, and then a group of us went to dinner and just got to further hang out with this guy. And we mentioned him on a previous episode when we were talking about people who are grounded.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a career mindfulness yoga bro.
Sounds grounded.
Yes. So I am absolutely 100% extremely honored and excited to welcome him today.
Let's do it.
Come on in. One day we're going to have a live audience.
One day.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
I'm Jonathan Noel.
And I'm Brian Noel,
And I'm Michael Plasha.
This
And
is the Focus Cast.
where we reduce distractions
Increase focus.
so we can live a life with
Intentions.
intention.
And Grace.
That too.
And trying to
grace.
get the headphones on correctly.
So what's really cool is I get to sit in the middle of two really incredible people. Our last guest episode with Alex Ballou. So before that, we had Alex Stadler, who was a massage therapist, and then we had Alex Ballou, who is was. Alex Stadler is a massage therapist.
Yep.
Alex Ballou is a sound
Vibrational
meditation vibration.
Sound,
Yeah, sound guy. And then Michael Plasha is and then that's my question. What are you?
Well, thank you for fitting me into the world of the Alex people. I'm honored that we slipped in a different name. And what am I?
Yeah.
Well, that's a classic question.
Yeah.
Who am I?
What if I were to ask you to provide a service and I would pay you for that service, what would that service be called?
Mindfulness leadership, mindfulness coaching, mindfulness consulting, helping people to feel grounded, to feel focused, to feel at home in their bodies and
Yeah.
clear about their intentions and their purpose in life, right here, right now.
That sounds like everything we want to have on this podcast.
And here I am to serve you in whatever way I can.
Yeah. So what does mindfulness mean?
Do you feel your feet on the floor right now? Do you feel your butt in the chair? So let's just start there. It can mean just being in our bodies, out of our heads. I live in my head. Most of us do.
Yeah.
We have heads, we have brains. They have their purpose. We know that. They have their function. But when I'm spinning in thoughts, I'm not here now. I'm dwelling on the past, worrying about the future. I might be daydreaming in the present moment, and I'm not present because I'm daydreaming.
Right.
So it's really about paying attention to what am I feeling, and a useful tip that comes from Buddhism, which is the source of mindfulness. I think that's important to acknowledge that rich wisdom tradition. Is they have a great tip, and this comes from one of the original ancient texts of mindfulness, the Satipatthana Sutra. And sati means mindfulness. And the practice is just be aware of the position that you're in throughout the day. And the classic positions are standing, sitting, lying down, and walking. So there will be times when I just am aware, okay, I'm standing, I'm sitting, I'm lying down, I'm walking. This is useful for me to help me get out of my head. Example, I'll step into the shower and I start to get my body wet for shampoo and soaping. and I'll be aware that I am having a full-blown conversation in my head about someone that I haven't even seen in years. So I've actually brought them into the shower with me.
Yep.
And why did I even do that? I would not want this person to be physically in the shower with me on any level.
Right. Right.
Yet I brought them in mentally.
Yep.
So I'll catch myself and I'll smile at, oh my, look what I just did. And I'll let that go. And what makes it easy to let it go is I just pay attention. I'm standing in the shower. I'm feeling the warm water on my scalp. I'm feeling the sensation of the water on my body. Now I'm smelling the shampoo and I'm feeling that, et cetera, et cetera. So that helps me get out of my head and into my body. And why is that useful?
That's exactly what I was about to ask. Why? What's the importance of that? Why not stay in your head all day?
Right. I think the value of that is if we're only thinking the thoughts that are necessary and useful in the moment, then we have more energy. We have more brain energy. If I'm just spinning in unnecessary thoughts, unskillful thoughts, and when I say unskillful, like worries, anxieties, anger, all of that, negative judgmental thoughts, they take up a lot of energy.
Most definitely.
Right? And
Yeah.
so when I can pay attention to that, then I can make a choice about what I want to think about. I can choose that. So there's, that awareness of ourselves that there's thoughts, and we can identify with those thoughts. But a deeper level is being aware of those thoughts, not just naturally identifying with them. And then we can choose which thoughts we want to think about it. I don't want to think about this guy in the shower.
No.
That's not serving me on any level. I would rather just reduce thoughts, increase my energy, and if I'm going to think about something, think about a thought that actually feels good. And that might be like a loving kindness kind of thought or meditation or self-compassion thought. And then when I walk out of the shower, my emotional person is in a much more positive, happy place than not. If I was just dwelling on negative thoughts. Does that make sense?
Most definitely.
So
So that's how, the importance of getting out of my head some of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And that's figuratively speaking, of course. We can never get out of our heads.
Right.
I'm not sure where I would be.
Yeah. So you
Might be a happy place.
you are able to determine what you want to think about most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm,
I aspire
Yeah.
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 to being aware of the thoughts that feel good, the thoughts that don't feel good, and letting go of the thoughts that don't feel good. And also being interested in the space between the thoughts, which for me is sacred. Because when I'm in the space between thoughts, now I can be receptive to intuitive wisdom. Einstein once famously said, E equals mc squared. I didn't think that, it came to me. So when we're in that space between thoughts, intuitive direction can just come to us.
Yeah.
I call them inner promptings.
Yeah.
And those are sacred to me.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, where
Do you have an example of that? Like an inner prompting that
It
really was meaningful to you?
how I was sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
position wise. I think I was just laying there and I was in like a half in and out state, and it's almost like it just whoosh, came into my brain, like it was kind of pushed there, like, hey, maybe don't sleep in this position because whatever. In my head, it made so much sense,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm like, does it make sense? But I guess it does. Like, don't be all gnarled up, because
Right.
it doesn't make it's not the best for breathing, and it's not the best, to spend hours at a time.
Right.
But it's like one of those small things we all know, but it came to me in a way like, don't do this. Like it was pushed onto me. It's not something I was trying to think about.
Right.
Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like the universe was saying, yo, I'm going to shove this in your brain. You're not thinking about it right now, but I'm going to make you care.
And
Anyway.
you cared.
Yeah.
And it was a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess, the step-by-step approach, if there is such a thing, would be, for me, mindfulness is being present in the present moment, which helps me to mentally pause, which then helps me to listen to these intuitive promptings. And then I have a choice to do what I'm prompted to do or not. So, simple example might be, what am I going to wear today? Now, I can do the typical automatic pilot, and unconscious, I'll just pull out a shirt and put it on, right? Or I could be like, all right, what shall I wear today? The red, the green, the blue, the purple shirt. And then mentally pause and see which one lights up. See
Yeah.
if there's like a gut feeling.
Intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of words for this, right? Intuition, prompting, gut feeling, and it's all good. I mean, I was raised with the idea that intuition was only a feminine reality, a woman's intuition. So growing up, I didn't think men had an intuitive faculty until later,
Yeah.
and I discovered my own, which was always there.
Right.
But I had covered it up with trying to be rational and logical and linear thinking.
I think it's there for everyone, but you have to take all the distractions. You got to quiet enough things down to actually hear it.
And I think it's a muscle. It's like a spiritual muscle we have
Yeah.
to develop like anything else. And the more we do it, the easier it gets.
But it's pretty subtle still.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it becomes less subtle, but I feel like it's pretty subtle. So
Right.
it takes, for me, quieting some noise down before I can really tap into it.
Absolutely. And
So-
for me, the value of external silence, internal silence through mindfulness, quieting down, allows me to listen better to that intuitive wisdom. I think it's always there. It's either whispering, or in some cases, if we're just so busy in our heads and our lives, it has to shout at us to pay attention. It has to get really loud.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the body too. The body's always speaking to us.
No doubt.
And if we're tuned in, we can pick up on it if it's subtle, it's whispering. Where some people, they're so disassociated from their bodies that they only feel their body if it's in pain or pleasure. My back hurts. Yeah, I feel that. I'm having an orgasm. Yeah, I feel that. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's hard to know what's happening in the body if we're always in our heads. And again, mindfulness is based on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It was a discourse the Buddha gave. And the 4 foundations are mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of sensations or feeling. What am I feeling in the body? Where am I feeling it? Mindfulness of the mind in a general way. What's happening in my mind? And then mindfulness, the 4th foundation is mindfulness of mental formations, like very specific about the kind of thoughts or emotions that are in our minds. So it could be memories or fantasies or planning thoughts or judgment thoughts. And not just negative judgments. People judge judgments. And so sometimes we think judgments are always negative, but there's sound judgments, obviously, and positive judgments.
Yeah.
And so we can be aware of those as well. There's discursive thinking. There's me in the shower having a full-blown conversation with someone that's not even existing. So it's being aware of those kind of formations. Then the deeper level is, why is that even there?
Yeah.
What's the root of that? What's the origin of that? Am I hearing my mom talking again? Is that my dad talking?
Yeah.
Where did that voice come from? And do I still want to hold on to that voice? Do I want to cling to it? or do I want to let it go?
It's like the shower is the classic example of you go somewhere and have like the imaginary argument, you know, with your boss.
Yes.
Man, I should have said this.
Yeah.
I should have said that. You're like, man,
Absolutely.
if only I had, yeah. And then you're like,
And
that's-
that could be anywhere, right? It could be in the car. It could be in the
anywhere,
kitchen. It
yeah.
could be anywhere. And again, step one is just trying to get in the present moment, get grounded. Just get grounded.
I mean, on a recent episode, Brian, you mentioned like you feel like you're feeling your body more.
Yeah.
So maybe some of this resonated for you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel more present and aligned internally than I ever have in my entire life. Really, and it's still new. I just in my last therapy session, we were talking through how 3 things hit me all at once in one day with all 3 companies that I'm either a part of or launching, and they weren't like bad. They weren't super negative. They were just like little bumps in the road, but they just all came in. It's like one right after the other, and it spun me into kind of like that disassociated state. And it'd been like 3 or 4 weeks since I didn't feel that way. So it was actually really awesome because I went from, I felt disassociated for 30 plus years. So as long as I can remember, but looking back, and then like 4 weeks break, feeling present. And then all of a sudden, like these things happen and kind of spun me back into that Matrix type feeling where everything feels fake. It was cool because I was like, oh shit, like this is.
You got to have a real quick example of what it was,
super extreme,
and where you're at.
Yeah. So then I just had to work through that, and so it was pretty cool. But like it's interesting, right? Because it's like obviously I can say right now I feel less fatigued. You know, to your point, it takes a lot of energy from a mindfulness standpoint because that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because I think there's a lot of people that are just coasting, right? They're just an autopilot. What's the cruise word? Cruise control.
Mindlessness.
Yeah, just mindless, but their minds they're tired and their minds have anxiety. So we can say mindlessness, but it's like their brains are screaming, their hearts are screaming, their bodies are screaming, like it feels like life is just this intense, fucked up shit, and they're gonna spin out of control, right? Like I felt like that many times, and so. When you hear, I know for me personally, when I hear someone talk about like mindfulness or like chill, honestly, it felt almost so, I think for me in the past, obviously not anymore, but it felt so distant and so unreal. It just made me want to make fun of it. Almost in a sense, or like be like, why would you want that? Or there's no way you can truly achieve that. You must be lying. Which that was just, for me, it was just my own, like, I honestly couldn't fathom what it would be like to not have
A
this.
thousand different things running around your brain all at once.
So it's like, is it true?
It's a big, it's a big shift.
Are you lying?
That's a big shift to go from that reality that you described
Yeah.
to a different reality. So
Yeah.
these meditation masters will talk about the first level of awakening, Kinsho in the Buddhist tradition, is I am not my thoughts. I am the observer of my thoughts. That was a radical breakthrough for me. I would say in my 20s.
Yeah.
Because I thought my thoughts were the only thoughts on the planet, and they were the best thoughts of anyone on the planet. My ego was so attached to the idea of my own thoughts. And that was such a radical idea for me that I'm not my thoughts. And that was hard because it requires some letting go. Letting go of ego, letting go of these patterns, these tape loops, these ways we've been recycling certain thought patterns in our lives over and over and over again, that we actually believe them.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the negative stuff too. Like there's
Oh, most
ego, but there's
definitely.
also like, a big internal, and I mentioned this on the podcast before. So if you're a repeat listener, you've heard this before, but one of the internal exiles that I repeated was, I am cursed. Right?
Sure, that was your mantra, the unskillful mantra.
Yeah.
Mine was I'm unworthy.
Yeah.
I'm unworthy.
Yeah.
I mean, my family of origin, what I heard a lot growing up was, you'll never amount to anything. You aren't good for nothing. Yeah, and I heard that a lot growing
Yeah.
up. So when I graduated from high school, went to college, I was really insecure, very
Yeah.
insecure. My self-worth was like nothing. And so I had to find my self-worth in other ways outside of those messages. But still to this day, that can be a subtle message. And I guess I receive some comfort in the yoga understanding, what they call the samskaras. And samskaras are these repetitive, habitual ways of thinking and feeling about ourselves.
Yeah.
And the most universal one is, I am unworthy.
Yep.
And so we humans will spend our whole lives striving to get approval outside of ourselves because we don't have it inside ourselves,
Most definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And that's such a struggle for people. And, it has been for me in the past, that looking outside of myself for approval. And we're just setting ourselves up
Yeah.
big time because not everyone's going to approve of us.
Right.
No.
And,
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that didn't work. I'll go to that person. Well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Now I'm on my 12th marriage.
You're on
Well,
your
that didn't
endless
work.
hunt, yeah.
So that's a powerful thing. A samskara is, they call it like a scar on the brain. Remember the vinyl records that have come back now? If there's like a scratch on it, it keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
And that's the power of samskaras. We keep repeating ourselves. People will make a New Year's resolution. 3 weeks later, they break it. Because these samskaras, these habits, they're in the unconscious.
Yeah.
So you have to like remove them from the unconscious by putting in positive ones, like intentions, in order to start to change that up. I mean, a simple statement would be, I am worthy, instead of I'm unworthy,
Right.
right? And then there's a Sanskrit mantra, which is soham, and soham literally means I am that, with a capital T, and that refers to our own inner divinity and worthiness. So we can translate soham to I am divine, I am good, I am worthy, I'm great. And everyone else is too. It's not just me,
Right.
obviously. So that's one of my favorite mantras, just because of that samskara for me. I am unworthy. So I meditate on that quite a bit, whether I'm sitting or moving about or whatnot. And it's to try to replace that old one. And it's really helped to change my mind quite a bit.
When do you, if ever now, have moments where you feel unworthy? Or when was the last time you felt unworthy?
Trying to put these headphones on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That brought up some insecurity.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like really good with tools. I'm not really good with my hands. I'm not a handyman. I'm not a fix-it guy, and that's that. We laugh at it, but that can be like one of these little subtle triggers for me.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm feeling pressure, it gets worse. If I have time and the leisure to kind of figure things out myself, if I'm fixing something,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah.
How can I figure this out? But if there's pressure, forget about
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The pressure just cooks me. So I would say if I'm faced with some new challenge in my life, that might come up. making this move to Savannah is huge for me. I would say it's probably the biggest adventure in my life outside of being married and having children. Because, here basically I'm an unemployed guy without the ability to get unemployment compensation that's going to a new place where most people, they don't know me.
Yeah.
And, I had a very established career where I was, where everybody knew me. And apparently, well, they would tell me my name was synonymous with meditation and yoga in a city of over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
You would say, meditation, well, that's Plasha. Go see him.
Yeah.
Doctors would refer patients to me. I mean, it was just, I was in this,
Yeah.
You had a network.
this culture. And it was all word of mouth. And so, I'm kind of carrying the fullness of that in me, but I'm also aware that there are many people in Savannah who they already have their favorite yoga teacher. They already have their meditation teacher that they love, and that's all good. So it's kind of like, ooh, I got to prove myself again. Yeah.
Why? Why are you moving?
Or is it even proving myself? It's just being myself, and we'll see what happens. I think that's more of the shift for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to prove myself. It's more just be me.
Right.
Yeah. If you just exist, the rest will happen.
Right.
So why are you moving to Savannah?
I'm tired of cold.
So it's total practical.
Some of it is. I felt like I was feeling complacent. I was getting bored.
Yeah.
And I felt like I'd done everything I could do. And, I love my students up there and all of that. And it's definitely hard to leave that.
Yeah.
But I just feel at this point in my life, in order to be fully engaged in life and to grow more, I needed a challenge. And so moving to a new place, new climate, new culture, new people, is really going to, I think, be a good creative challenge for me. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm energized by it. My wife has said the last six months, just me thinking about it, getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to get ready to go. She's never seen me so energized in like a long time, And I've been reading and meditating more and just getting ready. And we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about it, the possibilities. And, because of that, I met you.
It's true.
And now I met your brother.
Yeah, most definitely.
And
Yeah.
I really feel like you guys are like brothers from another mother. And, that cliche. But I feel like we share a lot of like-minded values.
Most definitely.
Which wasn't easy to discover where I was. There was some of that, but not.
You have to seek it out.
Yeah,
It's not just out in the open.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you appeared. I appeared to you. You appeared to me at that conference, and it was effortless. And you led me to your buddies, Donnie and Pote Baby, and that was like just so exciting to me.
Yeah.
Getting out of my bubble, out of my little life, my hermetic, isolated, living in the woods for many years by choice, but it was isolating. And I'm ready to be a part of a community, more of a community.
Yeah. So I'd love to go back to you are not your thoughts. You are just an observer of your thought. That was stage 1 of what? What was that?
Well,
Of mindfulness.
Of mindfulness?
it's considered the first level of waking
of
up.
waking up. Yeah, that's what you said. So first
Waking
level of
up
waking up.
from the dream of unconsciousness.
Which is pretty incredible, right? So I was just,
Because we all have crazy thoughts.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of comedians will be like, if everyone knew each other's thoughts, no one would talk to or trust anyone. So it's
Well,
like,
and it's weird because
Yeah.
it's like understanding or like the difference between our mind and our soul and our brain And so like this concept of your thoughts. What am I thinking? I am thinking, me as a human being, I am thinking. So where does that thinking come from, right?
Right.
So to even somewhat try to disassociate yourself from what you are thinking, like it's easy to say, but that's a pretty deep concept that I am not my thoughts.
Can we do a little practice around that?
Yeah, we can. I'm down. Let's do it.
I'll
Let me
keep it
sip my
simple.
tea.
Sure.
I'll keep it simple. Check your posture. You know, if you want to adjust it, adjust it. If you're good where you are, then that's good. And
There we go.
so, if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. If you don't want to close your eyes, you can have them slightly parted and look down towards the floor here, and just try to shift your awareness to the back of the brain. Shift your awareness to the back of the brain. And just have fun with this a little bit. Imagine your mini me. Your mini me.
Like my mini me or you as a mini?
No, you're
my mini,
no,
I got you.
yeah, you're a mini me. Don't get me in there. It's
Don't
gonna
get me
get too
involved.
it'll get too crowded. So you're mini me, and you're seated like in a little golden throne at the back of the brain. Okay, and just start to observe any thoughts, any feelings, sounds, sensations passing by without getting involved. There's a lot of analogies for this, so whatever works. You know, imagine your mind is like a movie screen. You're watching a movie of your thoughts. Or imagine your thoughts are like puffy white clouds, and they're floating through the sky of your awareness. So the trick here is to observe what's there without clinging on to it. So you want to just observe it, let it pass by, let it come, let it go. And at some point, you might notice the space between the thoughts, which is the space of stillness. Even if it only lasts 1 second, that is special. It's special because we're taking that perspective of, I have thoughts, but I'm not the thoughts. I'm something else in that silence. And we can't look for it. We can't try to find it. It's something that we'll receive at the right time. So I'm just going to be quiet for a moment. And you feel, you know, Brian, you can cue us out of this. But let's try to just sit in silence for like a minute.
Was that a minute?
I don't know.
I don't know how long that was. I'm pretty relaxed though.
So what did you experience there, Brian?
First of all, I've never had high quality headphones on while someone was telling me, guiding me through meditation.
Okay, I was pretty relaxed.
So that was
Extremely relaxed.
that was very nice. That felt like a just like a brain hug.
Oh,
Just like the voice was just wrapping itself around my brain.
there's my story branding.
Yeah, there
I'm
you
a
go.
brain hugger.
A brain hugger.
Brain hug.
Brain hugger.
That's funny.
I love
Um,
that.
Yeah, you know, I could see the kid on the golden throne, small in the back of the brain. But then the second I was delegated to pull us out of it, I started
Thinking about when to do
thinking about like,
Well, sure.
okay,
sure.
cool. Like then it was how long how does this work with a podcast? Should we speed it up? Should we have a little timer that's like,
Sure.
and then,
That's where timers are really useful.
yeah.
Yeah, set a timer on
Yeah.
your phone or clock, 5, 10, 15
Oh,
minutes.
yeah.
I do 30. My meditation is usually 30, but I do a lot of prep work
Yeah.
in that 30 minutes. And
But it is interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a glimpse of, and I'm excited to do this outside of the context of having to be the person who pulls us out of it. But yeah, there's a moment of you have a thought, and it's almost like, what are you gonna think next? There is no thought. What is that? So I think that was a pretty good explanation of like the space in between the thoughts, and like there's some magic there. And I've never thought of that before in my life until this moment. So,
Really?
Nope.
So in that space between thoughts, that's where we might receive some intuitive prompting, wisdom.
Yeah.
Something might just come.
Mm.
And for me, that's like a treasure. That's my deeper self is prompting me. And that's sacred for me, to follow that. But if we live in our heads, and we all do to some degree, it's hard to get that perspective. So most of us cling on to things. We cling on to the thoughts. I use the analogy is in the world of Star Trek, we don't want to be Klingons. They're angry people.
Yeah.
And when we're attached to things, we can get frustrated. We can
yeah.
get tense. It's a form of anger
Yeah.
to be a Klingon. So Americans, me included, we haven't been trained to strengthen our letting go muscles.
Yeah.
So this might be helpful, guys, if you don't already do this, is in the yoga tradition, they talk about the twofold practice of non-attachment and effort towards steadiness of mind. So effort towards steadiness of mind is choosing anything that you can focus on. Here's your podcast, right?
Yeah.
You could focus on the breath. You could focus on counting the breath. You could focus on a mantra. You could focus on a visualization, let's say. And then invariably the mind is going to wander. Inevitably, invariably, it's going to wander. So then the practice is non-attachment. You let go of whatever pulled you away from the object of your focus. And then you go back to it. And with most of us, that's the practice. And the awareness that I've left the object, and I've drifted into some thought or a whole train of thoughts, or maybe several trains of thoughts, and there I went for 15 minutes and realized, woo, man, I got lost in that for a while, and let that go and go back to the breath. That moment when we're awake enough to notice that we left our object of meditation that's part of the practice, and that's a really positive that we were aware of that. In fact, Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous meditation teacher, he calls that a miracle of mindfulness. In my tradition, miracles were something else.
Yeah.
So I really love that idea that a miracle can just be having that moment that I'm awake enough that I know I got lost in some thought that doesn't even need to be there, and go back. So again, that's kind of breaking that pattern up a bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What's the second level of awakening?
You want it all today, don't you?
I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm already gonna go sit down and think about that concept of you're not your thoughts. You're an observer of your thoughts, and so look for the spaces in between the thoughts. Like I'm all over that.
Just try not to overthink it.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about my thoughts.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a pitfall.
Yeah.
We're down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So what was your question? Oh, the
What's
next level?
What's the next level of awakening?
There were 4, right? Didn't you say
Yeah.
there were 4 pillars? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
something
talking
like that.
Well, there's these 4 foundations of mindfulness.
about? Okay.
But then like a separate understanding is awakening, and there's different traditions with this, but the first level would be, I'm aware I'm not my thoughts. I'm the
Yeah.
observer of my thoughts. And then the next level would be being in that thought-free state more often. And then the mastery or the level of enlightenment would be being in that place 24/7, where you aren't thinking about what to do next. You aren't thinking about the past or the future. You're tuning into your emotional guidance system, your inner guidance system that's directing every action in your life. That's enlightenment. All these teachers have talked about it in their ways, but the common theme is that they aren't thinking about what to do next. It's like, instead of my will be done, thy will be done. So one understanding is we're tuning into like divine inspiration.
Or the higher self, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there's all these different words, for the same reality,
Yeah.
which I kind of, go with intuitive wisdom a lot. It's a little bit less baggagey
Yeah.
than if you say God or goddess or
Right.
soul or spirit. But
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes religion, like we talk about focus and the cons. We go at it from a science angle a lot, just because that's kind of the neutral ground. And me being a Christian and hanging out with a lot of Christians, sometimes they, especially in American westernized. So I don't want to speak in generalities, but based on my experience in Western Christianity, this concept of mindfulness and all that kind of stuff is like, seen like it's either ignored or just not appreciated, or sometimes even seen as like demonic, which is really sad. But
right.
if I'm sitting here, sorry, I turned yours up. I turned mine up. But I'm sitting here thinking through like that space of that enlightenment of 24/7, thy will be done, right? Not my will, but thy will be done, which is I think that's a verse. But anyway, have you seen someone? I guess the goal is the state of being there, but like I don't know if it's possible. Can a human being even get to that point?
Right.
And if someone told me they did, I don't know if I'd believe them.
Right. There's that.
No, that's my skepticism.
Right.
That's
right.
not. It's not saying it's a judgment on them. It's maybe a judgment on myself, because there's a piece of me that doesn't believe it because I don't want to or whatever. But
Right. Well,
I don't know.
I appreciate that transparency.
yeah, I mean,
Well, I would like to think that we all have the capacity to be that way, and that it's not relegated to a few founders of religions.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a special club, that this inclusive club that only included Moses and Muhammad and Jesus and Buddha and Krishna.
right.
That
Any human, if they set
that we all have that
the
capacity.
capacity.
So, and let's say being enlightened, it doesn't mean you're wearing special clothes. It doesn't mean there's a halo above your head. You don't have a uniform. So, the janitor at the high school could be fully blown enlightened.
Yeah.
And
totally.
part of enlightenment is being humble. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't know. But here's the thing. What's the feeling tone of enlightenment? So to kind of shift that from theoretical conceptualization, which we like to do in the West, I like to do that. But like the feeling tone, and there's a lot of scriptures about this in yoga and meditation, different traditions. Feeling tone is unconditional love. The feeling tone is joy. Yeah, I've heard you guys talking about this. The feeling tone is mental peace. The feeling tone of enlightenment is effortlessness. What's called non-doership in the yoga tradition. That's an interesting concept, non-doership. Taps
does that
into
mean?
this. Well, typically we think we are the doers. right? I'm a human doing. I'm not a human being, right?
Oh, okay.
And so I am a doer, and it's all up to me. It's my responsibility to make something happen in my life. And then we have all the stress and tension laying on us to try and make something happen, right? So non-doership is letting go of that struggle and being an instrument of divine inspiration, however you want to think of it, intuitive wisdom, but being an instrument of God's will, if you want to think of it that way, but allowing, I'll put it in this context, allowing the universal energy of life to flow through you, as you, and for you.
Yeah, be a conduit.
Be a conduit.
Yeah, I call it at least growing up, whenever I did, how my brain sees it is like flow state, more or less.
Flow, that's a great way to describe it.
You just exist in the currents of the universe without pushing back.
Yeah.
And then it's worked for me because, I don't know, shit just seems to work.
Yeah, and it's
I don't
it's
ask,
effortless.
I don't
and you
ask
get more.
why, and I don't ask for more, and I don't ask for less.
Yeah.
I just let it happen.
So how do you get to that place, the flow state? How do you do it?
I have no idea.
Okay. But you get.
Well, you're extremely.
I think
You're
having
constantly looking
expectations is really what kills 99% of everyone's life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
Expectations for everything we have for ourselves, and just every single thing. You're driving to the store, you're upset about a red light. Expectations.
Right.
All the way down to the smallest thing, all the way up to the biggest. And then so how are you supposed to exist like that and have any sort of
Right.
like peace of mind when everything is, you have expectations at every single turn, every single movement? You're going to be miserable.
You'll be very frustrated. Yeah.
You'll be
it's a cause of suffering.
Yeah, it's a lot of suffering.
Absolutely. The Buddhists like to say it's okay to have preferences, which is like an expectation, but don't be attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example, like, I like the weather to be sunny and 75.
Oh, for sure.
I
Absolutely.
like that, but if it's not, I'm not going to let that condition determine what I'm feeling. So that's the letting go.
No.
Now, if someone's attached, their expectation is I'm only happy if it's sunny and 75.
Exactly.
They're going to suffer a lot. And that's, a metaphor for everything.
I
Right?
think it's hard to articulate, or for me, it's just everything that's happening is just a thing that's happening. You decide, you get to interpret what it is. Same with the stoplight. You hit the red light. Fuck, I'm late. Rah. Or, sweet, now I have an extra 10 seconds to listen to this podcast.
Or practice 3-part breathing, do some
But
pranayama.
yeah, and
Right.
so it's every single thing that happens to your life. We like to add these attachments to it. Like, this is a
Right.
good thing, this is a bad thing. Everything is just a thing,
Right.
right? Isn't it? It's just
And then what do we want to do with that thing?
yeah.
Like Thich Nhat Hanh will say with the red light or the driver that's really slow in front of you,
Yeah.
instead of being frustrated, like, thank you for teaching me in this moment to slow down. Thank you.
I think I do that all the time.
I do it a lot
because
too.
I won't even be paying attention. I'm listening to a song. I'm like really get into it. And I'm like, man, why the fuck is this person driving so slow? And I look and I'm like, oh, I'm going like 20 over. Okay. I'm actually glad they're in front of me.
Right.
So I don't get the speeding ticket.
Right.
So it's just a flip of the script.
And they're giving you more time to listen to your song.
But so I don't know. I just let life exist. Kind of happen. I don't know how it got that way.
Yeah.
I don't know when it started. I think it's just a combination of things.
That's beautiful. But I think that's a real key, what you're saying, letting go of expectations. So one example I can give, I've taught over 12,000 yoga classes in my life, something like that. And I can do it on automatic pilot, which isn't really nurturing. and for me or the students.
Right, right.
You know, I can dial it in. I've done it so many times. But what I like to do is get grounded before they walk in the room, and to ask my higher intelligence to get my ego out of the way and to surrender to the moment and to read the field of energy. What do the people feel like that are coming in?
Yeah.
So I try to tune into that field of energy, and I try to get my ego out of the way in terms of dialing it in. And instead, I intuit what I'm going to say and what I'm going to teach. And to me, that's non-doership when I can get to that place. And I feel like I'm being guided, and I'm saying things that I wouldn't think to say. That's it. I'm not thinking to say it. It's coming to me to share with them. And often after a class like that, someone will come up to me and they'll say, "How did you know to say that?"
Yeah.
Because I really needed to hear it. And I, with honesty, I'm like, I didn't know to say that. It came to me. And I'm glad it was useful to you, it was of value to you. Because I never would have thought that, but believe me.
Yeah, how are you supposed to know that? And the only way you can get to that point is to, like you said, reach that position.
So that's non-doership for me. Yeah. And I feel more energized when I'm teaching that way. Yeah. Otherwise, if I'm just dialing it in, it gets tiring. And it's kind of boring, you know? Where sometimes, like, we'll be in a posture, and then I'll cue them out of it, and I have no idea what to teach next. I literally don't. So my fallback, and I've trained teachers, if you don't know what to say, just tell them, just cue them to breathe. But while they're doing that, like in my case, I'm tuning in to, like, what would you have me teach next? So the you is infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
What would you have me teach? And something will come right in. It will just come right in. And sometimes it's something I haven't taught in a long time. And I'm thinking, like, wow, you're putting some trust in me, man. Because I got to remember how to do this. No. But I do what I'm prompted to do. Yeah. And so then I'll cue the group. I'm like, okay, next is this.
So you said,
and that's really cool.
I'll ask my ego to step down. Like, let's walk through that. How do you do that?
I just ask. I'm just
like, how? Like, give me an.
It's like a prayer, It's
say
like
say it. What's the script? I want to know. What does that even sound like?
Please get my ego out of the way so I can receive teachings that will be helpful to the people in the class today.
Nice.
That's about it.
When over time, I would assume when you ask the ego to step down, it doesn't come back as much. But when that ego would come back, do you have to remind the ego? I would assume you don't yell at it and be mean to it. You just, if it comes back, you just ask it again to step down. Or does it ever come back once you're teaching the class?
It doesn't come back.
Has it always never came back?
Sometimes it comes back.
Okay. So what do you do when it does?
I say to it, there you go again. Truly.
So what is...
there you go again, and I really don't have to listen to you.
What's an example of the ego coming back? What's the narrative in your head that you would go, oh, that's my ego?
Just something that's familiar, that's like I've done it a million times. It's safe. For me, the ego is fear-based. And it doesn't have anything to do with love or service. And I want to be in the place of love and service. But the ego is threatened by that because the ego likes to be in control because it's fear-based. And when we're in that place of non-doership, there's surrender going on. I want to let go. I want to let go of the ego being in control. And that sometimes that's how I might word it, is I want to surrender. I want to surrender you, the ego, to the spiritual light within, so I can serve my students better.
Yeah.
I'll say that,
Mm.
and then just see what happens. And I find that it's like it's really rewarding when and it's effortless when stuff comes to you, you know, and there's no work involved. I could teach 100 classes like that in a row if that was always happening. It doesn't,
Right.
you know, but it just feels it feels right. It feels right when I'm in that place.
Yeah.
Like nothing can go wrong. No harm can come to anybody when I'm when I'm feeling that, you know.
So it sounds like the theme I'm hearing in mindfulness is back to this stages of awakening, which I really like. Understand you're not your thoughts and find the space between, and then manifest the space between, and then work towards being in that space 24/7 to where you live 100% in the present, because the future doesn't exist yet and the past is gone. How does that work when you're working with a CEO whose the majority of their job is to be strategic and forward thinking? How do they reconcile being present while constantly thinking about the impact of the future and planning for the future?
So you want me to be in the head of a CEO right now?
How do you reconcile those two things?
I'm not sure if I can climb in there.
Yeah.
That could be a dark, scary place.
Yeah.
I like being with you guys.
Yeah.
All I could say to that is that any of us, we have to plan for the future. Organizational skills, time management skills, right?
Yeah.
We need to plan for the future. But the trick is not to obsess about it. So we have our project mentality, which is a common challenge in meditation. The two major challenges are thinking and sinking in meditation, which is a bit different from mindfulness. Mindfulness is like a portable practice you do anywhere,
Right.
everywhere. You can do it all the time. When I was driving down here on the thruway, part of my mindfulness practice was recognizing I was gripping the steering wheel a lot harder than I needed to. And that tension I was feeling in my hands was translating to not breathing as well as I can. And so as soon as I caught that, I softened my hands and my breath deepened. That's mindfulness in action.
All right.
Okay.
I
Now,
can relate to that on the mountain bike.
absolutely.
Death grip. White
So,
knuckle.
Yeah.
mindfulness and breathing are these portable practices. Now, formal meditation, when we're sitting, the main obstacles is thinking or sinking. So, thinking is busy mind,
Yeah.
spinning in thoughts, and sinking mind is getting drowsy, spacey, sleepy, like sliding into the unconsciousness, which is to be avoided at all costs, because now we aren't awake at all, right? So it's tricky. We got to do something that's engaging enough that keeps our interest, but isn't creating some subtle tension. If I'm trying so hard to stay with my mantra, that creates some tension.
Right.
So again, it's that finessing effort and ease, having that balance of relaxed awareness. An analogy, you guys are musicians, and an ancient analogy is tuning a stringed instrument. If you tune it too tight, the string will snap. If you don't tune it right, you'll never get the vibration that you want. So similarly in meditation, we want to finesse that, where if we're too uptight about it, then we can't relax into the energy that we're made of. This the energy of life that's in everything. It's animating everything. You guys were talking about it in that one podcast with the sound healer. It was a great podcast, and you guys had mentioned some of the wording of it. There's chi and ki, Aikido, Japanese, and chi, Tai Chi, prana in the yoga tradition. And you guys are trying to come up, what's the American term? I think you said chill,
Yeah.
right? Or the Beach Boys, good vibrations.
Yeah, good vibes.
Good vibes. And it's, I like the description of the energy of life. Energy has become matter. It's just vibrating at different levels. So this table is energy, but it's vibrating at a very slow frequency. Where in a plant, it's faster. In a animal, it's faster. Humans, it's fastest because we're conscious beings. So we're at a different level with the vibration. And as you know, we pick up vibrations in people. We can read fields of energy. Some people have a lot. Some people have small fields of energy. Mm. But what I try to tap into is it's the same energy of life that's flowing through all of us that really connects us as one. We all share that. We use it for different reasons and all that, and then we have our free will. We can do anything we want with that energy. Some people do nasty, harmful things to people. But regardless, that basic energy is the same. Now, if we can, again, kind of get the ego out of the way, it's going to increase that vibration. Mm. It's going to be more expansive. When I'm in my head with my unskillful thoughts, that's contracted energy. I'm a contracted person. I'm feeling unworthy. I'm contracted. So if I can let go of all that, I'll just naturally expand into who I am anyway. It's there. There's a reservoir there. I've covered it over with my problems, my fears, my worries, my anxieties. And I've contracted it. As soon as I let that go, it expands naturally. And I feel better. I feel good.
So let me make sure I heard that right. The true self is contracted.
No, that would be the false self.
The false self is contracted. The ego is contracting.
Right.
Contracted.
Yeah, right.
And the ego, you said before, is primarily operates out of fear, even though sometimes we see like the ego is like confident or like I can do this or like it's all me, I do this, but you're that really still comes from a place of fear.
And there's different models of that. I think a healthy model in Western psychology is that it's important to have a healthy ego in terms of healing wounds from the past that have either created the superiority or inferiority complexes, which is part of the ego mind-body concept. So it's important. You can't do a spiritual bypass, and people have tried that, where you try to get around that because it's uncomfortable. It's hard to do that work.
Yeah.
It was for me. I did a lot of therapy work over the years, and energy work and different things. But it's important to do that work because once the ego is healthy, now you can transcend it. Now it's easier to transcend, to get it out of the way. If it's an unhealthy ego, a wounded ego, then you can't transcend it, but people will try, and that's the bypass. Like, oh well, if I get my chakras aligned with some crystals, I'll be okay. If I take a sound bath, not to dismiss your sound bath master because he sounds great. But if I only do that, and I know he was talking about therapy and all that, which is great. That's what I want to hear personally, that integration going on.
Right.
But if someone's not doing that work and they're just running from thing to thing, hoping to get healed, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. They'll feel good in that moment.
Right.
Then they'll get in the car and be a jerk again. And start cussing at the driver,
Yeah.
So why'd you get in my way? I was so chill. What's wrong with you, you mother?
So the ego is
I tried to be mean just now.
Yeah. I could feel it. The ego is not good nor bad.
It's neutral.
It's neutral,
Mhm.
and
It's just a thing.
yeah, it's just a thing. And
That's
as we incorporate mindfulness every day, every moment, and specific practices of meditation, we can, the healthy, quote, healthy ego, we can ask that ego to transcend, to step aside, so we can create opportunities for us to be in the moment and give, not of our ego, not so we can get something in return, but we can just
Right.
give what feels natural to give to those around us in that moment.
Well said. I think that's it. And the ego is always looking for something in return.
Yeah.
I do this for you, you're going to do it for me, damn it.
Yeah.
And or things just aren't going to go well here. Where if you're coming from that other place, it's all selfless service.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I guess if there is a payback, it's that feeling good that something happened there that was of benefit, maybe even reduce some suffering in people. And it's okay to feel good about those things as long as it doesn't puff up the ego.
Right.
Like, I'm the greatest teacher of this on the planet, and
Yeah.
I'm into world domination as a mindfulness teacher.
I mean, it seems like at least the people that I've observed that I actually respect what they're doing it without expecting anything always yields more fruits anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easier necessarily for some people, but
Yeah.
it just usually works out that way,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you're putting more out than
Yeah.
you would ever expect. You don't expect anything anyway.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I feel like because I don't expect shit, when it does happen, it just makes it even better.
Swami Satchidananda used to say, if you have no appointments, you have no disappointments.
Yeah.
And that's having no expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I like that. You have no
So,
appointments, you got no disappointments. That's good. That's clever.
so like family reunions, which can be loaded with issues, and they have been in the past for me, I would have feelings of aversion, feelings of frustration going into those with certain people. And when I let go of just having any expectations that anyone in the group would even ask me a question, because they usually didn't, if anyone just, having expectation that someone would even recognize that I was there, when I let go of all that, I felt I was able to show up in a way that was accepting of who was there, on their just who they are.
Yeah.
And I could show up more light and playful, and have fun, because I had no expectations, and I had a good time. Like I was able to have, even with someone who politically thought exactly the opposite of me, which would really bug me. That used to bug me in the past. I was able to let that go and then just enjoy the person for who they are, and gifts that they have that are lovely gifts. You get that other stuff out of the way, and then you connect with this other, the humanity of the person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
So-
could have fun with that person, where before it was just I wanted to go into battle, and prove to him that he's wrong and I'm right, which is all ego.
That's all ego.
Yeah. What are you gonna say, bro?
Just gonna say, that's all ego.
What's going on, man?
So we can actually, see someone as human, regardless of whatever their quote thoughts are. Just as we look for the space in between our thoughts, we can also look for the human in between their projected beliefs and see them as human.
Yes, we can.
Mm.
Can I share a really cool practice with you guys?
Sure.
Yes.
You might already do this. So, all right, this assumes that we recognize that we're all one consciousness,
Okay.
that there is one energy of life, one consciousness that's flowing through all of us equally and evenly.
I don't know if I believe that.
Democrats don't have it more than Republicans.
Oh, okay. Now that all that I agree with.
You know, the Irish don't have it more than the
Yeah,
Italians.
okay, yeah. I
Men
gotcha.
don't have it more than women, on
Yeah.
and on and on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christians don't have it more than Buddhists,
Yeah.
you know, on and on and on.
Humans are humans.
Yeah. So the practice is whenever you're with someone, I'm doing it right now with you guys, is that you peer into their eyes, but you try to do it in a way that's not going to make them feel self-conscious.
Okay.
So I don't lean in and stare at you with glaring eyes, looking for the spirit that I know is in there somewhere, but you might not be aware of it. So I don't do that.
Yeah.
So instead, I look into people's eyes. It could be I'm checking food out at the grocery store.
Yeah.
In any situation, I don't have to know the person. That's the beauty of it, and be a total stranger. But I just recognize that the consciousness that's peering out of their eyes is the same consciousness that's peering out of my eyes. And when I can do that, I feel my heart opening, and I feel myself being more light, playful, and human. And I feel like having fun, or just at least tuning into maybe they just need a kind word right now, or they need to be acknowledged. We all like to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that can be an ego thing, but it's nice to acknowledge people and
Yeah.
appreciate people. You know, thank you for being here for that. Thank you. So when I can do that, and then I feel my heart opening, and I can go right into that place and have a good time with people. When I can't do that, then I feel my separation. I don't feel my oneness. I feel my separation. I
Yeah.
feel duality, what's called dualistic thinking, instead of monistic thinking, which is we're all one, the one and the many. Otherwise, I'll feel my separation, and that's more ego, and that's where I might slide into the place where I really don't care about that person.
Yeah.
I just want to get this food checked out and get on my way as quickly as possible. I really don't care about your day, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I can slide into that too. But what helps me is when I'm grounded, it's always for me about getting grounded, getting in my body and connecting with Source, that part of me. And then it's a lot easier for me to do that. And then life is like, it's just kind of fun. It's playful. And, you know, when we had lunch today, I felt that way with the waiter.
Yeah.
Totally. You know, just like he's not this object. He is a person. He has a life.
Yeah.
He's a suffering being, just like me. He
Yeah.
wants just what I want. He wants to be happy. He wants to avoid suffering, you know. And he is here serving us. And he might have an expectation of a good tip, but I didn't even think about that. It was more just energetically, you know, I want to be here for him. So when he told us who he was, I did my common thing, which is, well, I'm Michael, this is Brian, that's Jonathan. And we're here to receive your wonderful service. You know, I wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And because I was in the space to do that. Otherwise, I would have been like, blah, 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 you know.
Yeah.
You know, get my food, damn it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I invite you, if you don't do this already, try it. It's really, I love doing it.
Yeah.
It shifts me. It puts me in a good place. Yeah, and that's a simple practice. You can just do it throughout the day.
What was the phrase when you look at someone's eyes?
When you peer into someone's eyes, recognize that the consciousness that's peering out of them is the same as what's peering out of you. I mean, glibly, with people I know, they'll say like, "Hey, it's good to see you, man." And I'll say to them, you know, it's really good to see me and you looking out at me and winking.
Yeah.
Because you are me,
Right.
and I am you. You're me too.
Yeah.
On that level, you know, and that's cool. You're walking down the street. I was in downtown Nashville yesterday, where people were doing a lot of drinking, and it was the Hollywood spot
yeah.
of Nashville, all the bars.
Broadway.
And I'd never been there before, so my
Yeah.
friend wanted to show me around. And you know, I could have had the dualistic thought of, like, look at these drunken losers, people who are addicted and they're smoking cigarettes and they that's, low vibration people, and instead, because I started to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, look at you in your superiority box,
Yeah.
let's jump off that. And so I shifted to, wow, that's me too. Like, look at that temple walking by.
Yeah.
Wow, there's another temple. That's me too. And then it was just for me like this joyful party happening. And people doing it in different ways. Yeah.
So I got a couple more things to ask.
Really?
We're at an hour.
You're
20.
tapping me, man.
This
you
might
know
be.
what? You know what I want to? Have you ever had a body scan? Have you
Yeah.
done that yet? Okay.
Alex Tadler.
You did a body scan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he
I'd love to do a body scan with you
Scan.
because there's different ways
Yeah.
of doing that.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes from the mindfulness
Do I keep my clothes on?
Absolutely.
All
Well,
right, cool. I just wanted to.
I mean,
before
clothing's
before I
optional.
said yes with confidence, I want to know what I was signed up for.
in my public classes, everyone is clothed.
Oh, okay. All right.
And in my private classes, everyone is clothed.
I got you. All right.
Yes. Yes.
What about the
That's
VIP?
that's what I'm.
Yeah, but the VIP.
The VIP classes.
Clothing could be optional.
Oh my
With my
gosh.
wife, clothing is optional.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
there are some parameters there.
Yeah. So, one thing I would like to take a minute to talk about is, like, how do you feel? Because drinking, you just said in Nashville, I'm watching people, they're drinking, all that kind of stuff. It feels good when I drink alcohol. So, and a lot of people drink alcohol, or a lot of people do drugs, or a lot of people eat, a big salty, sugary thing, right? So how do you feel? And how do you feel different now than you did when you consumed some of those things? Like, can you articulate the difference in how you feel now versus, when you used to drink or smoke weed or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Well, all those examples you gave are additives. There's something that we think it's going to give us temporary pleasure or happiness, right? It feels good in that moment until it doesn't. And then we want it again. So there's that craving cycle. And I wanted to be free of that as much as possible. And so the feeling of that is freedom. I'll feel free, but the feeling is, there's that old saying, be high on life. I think there is something to that. For me, personally, is that when I'm rested, I've had a good night's sleep, I'm eating in a way that is nourishing my body. It's not bringing in toxins or pollutants that might agitate my mind or create some dullness. Same with alcohol or marijuana. Is that I feel better, and I feel like my joy and happiness is coming from this internal place. I'm not trying to grab something. I'll grab the potato chips and I feel better. If I do that now, I don't feel better. I feel worse, because I know what my baseline is. And I can wake up and just feel good.
Yeah.
And then it just continues throughout the day unless I mess it up by putting something in my mind or my body that is going to get in the way of that natural state. So I think what you're asking, if I'm hearing you correctly, is, can we actually be independent, mobile, contented units walking upon the earth, self-sufficient without the need for any external additives? Can we actually experience our true nature?
I think so.
which is joy and feeling good. And I feel I can, I mean,
I think a lot of it is intentions too, like we were talking about earlier. Uh, Even though I'm not feeling like drinking much now, that doesn't mean I'm not done. I mean, it's just where you at. Is it serving you? Really
Yeah.
is the question.
right.
If you feel like it's not, then there's really no point.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
It's
when
like,
when I would drink, it was all about like the taste. It wasn't about quantity; it was quality with alcohol for me. It was total quality.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna have a beer, I'm gonna have like
best beer.
the most supreme craft beer that I
Yeah.
can find.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try each kind, the IPAs and that whole thing, that whole range. Same with wine. I'm gonna try and find the best cab, that kind of thing. So it was all about quality. And until I couldn't really perceive the quality after a while.
Yeah.
My taste buds just got kind of numbed out. But then the other level for me was it was hampering that natural state
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because I think, we talked about in a recent episode, sometimes you're so low or you feel bad all the time, or you're, low vibration, or your head's cloudy or whatever. Like, these unhealthy spikes are the only thing that feels good for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's really interesting is what I realized in the past 5 or 6 weeks, that I lived disassociated so long that I didn't know what it was like to feel like I was actually in the room, right?
Mm.
So how many, and we read a stat, like over 50% of kids in America experience like severe trauma,
What was the percentage?
50%.
Yeah, my wife, who's a therapist as well as a life coach, she's had that stat. There's 1 out of 4 people
Yeah.
have experienced trauma, whether they're aware of it or not. It's
Yeah.
conscious or unconscious.
Mm.
So if I'm teaching a class of 20 people, potentially there's 5 there.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So this mindfulness feels like work. Meditation feels like work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then,
Why does it feel like work to you?
well, in my state of disassociation before, meditation was just an opportunity for me to get in a quiet spot for the manager to fucking yell at me for 30 minutes, right? The manager being the person in my head. So it was like 30 minutes of me just like telling, like stop talking, instead of like counting my breaths. 1, this is so nice. 2, I love this day. For me, it was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Shut that person up. Shut that person up. Oh, what is that noise? Is that an ambulance? Oh, I didn't answer that email. What is that email doing? Okay. So if I do this, then I got to do that. Then this has got to happen in the world. Okay. Okay, you're supposed to be meditating. You're supposed to be meditating. You need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do this? And after 20 minutes of that, I just had to get up and walk away.
Well, that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So where did this inner critic come from?
Oh, well.
Like, what is that voice? And you don't have to answer
I'm on
that.
session 8 of therapy working through that. But,
Yeah, I mean, that's a voice, obviously, and it's a strong inner critic voice.
yeah.
So if you had told me that and said, okay, Michael, what kind of technique should I do instead?
Yeah. Because I feel like so many people in America don't even understand what it feels like to feel fucking good.
Right.
So all this stuff, mindfulness, meditation, focus, doing all this stuff feels like more things that I got to do to figure out my fucking self. Like,
Yeah.
so it just feels like a burden. But when I meet people who are grounded and you just sit with someone who's grounded, even for me personally, I feel so relaxed in that state. And I think some people may have never met someone that they don't even know it exists.
I'm sure a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and they've never experienced it in their head because of whatever trauma. And gosh, we feed fucking bullshit to kids the second they go to school. So it's like, anyway, all that to say. So in that state,
No, I'm feeling your frustration,
yeah,
man.
like what do we
Yeah.
do? Like, what do you recommend when someone's in that state?
Right.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
that negative fugue state.
that's my question.
Yeah. Well, you wanna meet the person more than halfway. So I want to meet you more than halfway, Brian.
All right.
Okay. And maybe
53%.
I know you like to move, right?
Yeah.
You like to move.
Yeah.
So I definitely would not tell you to sit for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. So, and I've worked with people like this over the years. So, and I, one thought that came up, one practice is what's called walking meditation.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and keeping it simple, maybe 5 minutes. And you don't want to overthink it too much, but you go outside. Bare feet is nice if you can do it that way, because you'll feel the sensation of textures. When I lead walking meditations for people who are comfortable taking off shoes and socks, and in Erie in January it really doesn't work, so we stay inside. But when we can go outside, I like to lead them on like different textures. So it'd be sand or pavement or grass. Keeps you a little bit more in the present moment. But anyway, 5 minutes, set a timer so you don't have to think about it. Soft gaze at the ground in front of you. Have a little route. It could be up and back or a circle. And all you're really trying to be aware of is when you pick up one foot, you're aware it's lifting. When you set it down, placing. Other foot, lifting, placing. It's that simple. Now, at some point, it's a grounding technique. Your mind might invariably wander. And the inner critic might raise its ugly head. Why the fuck am I doing this? Why did Michael, God damn it,
What the hell is wrong with that guy?
I have more to do than to think about lifting and placing my foot. Like, what the heck? So, maybe it might not be the best thing, but you can be aware of sounds coming and going, smells coming and going. You want to keep your cast down towards your feet so you don't get easily distracted by other things.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that is to get a little bit more grounded out of the head. You're feeling lifting and placing. At some point, you don't even have to say that, but those words can help.
Right.
But you can get to the point where you're just feeling lifting and placing. You don't have to say it. Some people will bring in a mantra to help steady their mind. Om Shanti. Shanti means peace, infinite peace. Om Shanti. Om is you lift the foot. Shanti is you place the foot. Some people like that. It feels more spiritual to them than lifting and placing. So that would be one thing that would come to me. I know you like mountain biking, and when you're mountain biking, because of the risk factor, you got to be in the present moment, which is mindfulness. One thing I tell people is mindfulness protects us from injuries. Most of the time when we get hurt or we're in a car accident, we weren't mindful.
True.
Yeah, so when you're mountain biking, you're paying attention. Right, and so and that's, I think that's one of the reasons you like it.
Yes.
It's physical. It gets your good hormones going, your adrenaline's going. You like that feeling, and it's getting you out of your head. So, you can also take it to the level of just feeling how much are you gripping the handlebars of your mountain bike. Is it excessive?
Yes.
Probably.
And is that a metaphor for how much we're gripping in our daily lives?
Yes.
Around things.
Yes.
Am I always gripping, trying to make something happen, let's say. But I would give you the challenge the next time you go mountain biking is see how light of a grasp you can have without losing control, obviously. Try to find that balance where you're in control, but you got the most relaxed grasp. I think that could be an interesting point of focus,
Yeah.
maybe. Other than that, you know, a lot of the teachers of meditation will say that the preparation for meditation is more important than the act of meditation. So what you described to me was a lack of preparation.
How do you prepare?
Whatever works. Like it's different for every
Nothing,
person.
What if nothing works?
Something's going to work,
Okay, what's
man.
one way to prepare?
I have
How
faith
do
in you.
What does that even mean, though? What does it mean to prepare for
All right,
meditation?
okay. It could mean, how long do you mountain bike for?
Usually hour.
Okay, here's my challenge to
hours.
you and Jonathan. All right, so you mountain bike for an hour, let's say, right? When you're done, sit for 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. You just prepared. You got all this changing and happening for you.
Yeah, you let it out on the trails.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You get that out, and then just sit for 5 minutes and just watch and feel your breath.
Okay, I think in all of the moments, that would be the time that I could do that. I love that idea.
There
Yeah.
we go. See?
We even have a chill rock that's on one of the trails that we do often. I could,
Oh, really? Oh,
could
that's
totally
perfect.
sit on that rock and
Yeah. So does that feel?
set a timer.
Does that land for you?
That feels accomplishable.
Okay. So, you know, preparation, it can mean anything. Some people like to chant for 15 minutes and meditate for 5. I have a whole like little routine for me that works for me. So I like to read something inspirational for a bit, and then I will do my appreciation list, and I appreciate all the teachers in my life to some degree, starting with the most difficult people in my life, because they taught me who I didn't want to be,
Yeah.
and they helped to teach me who I wanted to be.
Got a couple of those.
Yeah. And then I bring in the list of the sweet, supportive teachers. So I go through that. Then I go through my gratitude list for the day. What am I grateful for today? That's easy. And then I'll have some intention, my intention for the day. And then I do some breathing practices. Yoga, we call it pranayama, the expansion and direction of the life force. So that word, you're talking about, chi and ki. Life force is another one, energy. And so I'll do 4 rounds of, it's called Bhastrika, and 4 rounds of advanced alternate nostril breathing. And then I do this little Buddhist chant, Om, Ah, Hung. And Om is for the mind. Ah is for the throat, speech. And not just external speech, but all those thoughts in the head, the conversations in our heads. Om, Ah, Hung. And Hung is for the heart, the emotions. And that comes from Tibetan Buddhism. And I'll do 4 rounds of that. You see a theme here. I like the number 4. My family knows this.
Yeah.
4 is like my lucky number. And so I'll do 4 rounds of that. Now I'm actually ready to meditate. Now, depending on my state of mind in that moment, if it's quiet enough, I just follow the breath. And I'm feeling the energy of life flowing through me on the vehicle of the breath. But I'm also expanding that awareness into this life force or field of energy is flowing through all beings right now. And then I start to feel like I'm one with everything. Now, I get pulled out of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's supposedly a sign of enlightenment when you feel your oneness with everything. And I'll get a moment of that.
Yeah.
You know, a little sneak peek.
I want to know though, what does that feel like?
Oh, it feels great.
Help me articulate
You
it.
can't.
I can't. It's ineffable, man.
Not that I know, but I know you can.
Thank you.
explain
Help
it.
me here, brother. It's enough. It's like in the Zen tradition, they'll say, I can point at the moon, I can call it the moon, But you'll never know what it's like to experience the moon until you become one with the moon. I can point at it, but there's still
I don't know. I don't know what enlightenment feels like.
a
So.
separation. It just feels, my mind is peaceful. There's no thinking going on. Total peace of mind, and a total feeling of joy. A moment of joy. Just wow. Like, wow.
I think I'm reaching points now where it's easier to just not think as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been, now that it's warm, I just go chill in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually check the plants that I've planted. I take my shoes off and socks so I get some feet on the ground. I check the plants for like 10 minutes, pull some weeds or some shit, and then I can just sit there and whatever you want to call it, meditate. It doesn't really matter. But just recently, it's been hitting me where I can finally hit a point where it's like timeless, almost no time.
So your mind is quiet?
Yeah, where it's like, it's only been a few times now where I'm like, I don't know if that was 10 minutes or an hour. I don't know.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it feels like timelessness.
Yeah, and that's great, and well said. And that timelessness, that's that moment, that wow moment. You're outside of time and space. So yeah, it lasts a second, and then I'm back to the breath. And then I might go back to that again, and I'm back to the breath. Then I might get caught up in a thought. I let it go, I go back to the breath. Now, if my mind is busy, I can't even go there. So
Yeah.
I'll go to a mantra, and I'll repeat the mantra pretty quickly until I feel like my mind's getting stabilized and steady. And then I'll slow the mantra down. And then I might then just go to the breath, and my awareness is following the breath in and out. And then if I'm lucky, I might get to that place of taking the seat of the observer, where now I'm just observing. I'm watching myself breathe. If there are any thoughts, I'm just watching them come and go. I'm not getting involved. Hey, bye-bye. But I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
And but it's a process. That's the point, is that there's a lot of preparation to get to a moment, for me anyway, of either witnessing or that wow moment that I'm one with everything. And then, I've set my timer, it'll go off, and then I usually finish with loving kindness, meditation it's called, for myself, for my family, and then for all beings. So the way that works, and you can come up with your own phrases. The universal ones are, may I be filled with loving kindness, may I be well, may I be peaceful and at ease, may I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness, etc. I'll do it for all my family members, my wife, my kids. I do that daily. And, I finish with that. And in a sense of now I'm in a place of more service towards others. That's not just about me. I'm not starting the day with it's about me. It's about we. And how can I contribute to that? Yeah. So that's it, man.
Well, this was amazing. I already see a part 2. And this is going to be 2 parts anyway, but another episode would be phenomenal. So when you cruise back through again, we'll have to get you on. But it's 5 o'clock, and Clay is going to be here any minute. Wow, that 2 hours went by pretty quick.
That's insane.
I know, that is insane.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Hey, we were in that time where there's...
Wow, I can't believe it's 5 o'clock.
I know. So
we're in that place with no time.
Yeah. So as you can see...
There's no end to my day, is there?
Yeah. As I go down this journey, I love to question and understand
everything.
Yeah. So like this concept of mindfulness. I'm fascinated with it. Through therapy and EMDR and all this kind of stuff, I've experienced things that I haven't experienced from what I can tell a long time. So thank you.
You're
for
welcome. Your questions
helping
are
out.
so helpful in just trying to clarify
Yeah.
Absolutely.
experiences that are hard to articulate.
Yeah.
So thank you for kind of pushing me
Yeah.
to do that. I did the best I could.
And it was perfect.